I deleted the video. Then I emptied the trash. Then I reset the phone. Still saw it every time I closed my eyes. She told me it was a low-key thing. Her exact words. It's literally just dinner and a cabin in the woods. Said they were going to do charcuterie boards and matching pajamas. Game night. Wine. Maybe a bonfire. What the video showed was not a bonfire. My wife, dressed like she forgot she had a husband. Her hair curled, eyes glazed, cheeks flushed, swaying to some awful remix of a song I used to like. She was laughing. Not the laugh she gives me when I say something genuinely funny, but that fake high-pitched laugh she usually reserves for strangers at weddings. She was on a table. Someone was filming from below. There was a man, hands on her waist. Not mine. Her sister screamed off camera, "Wife it up, boy!" Everyone laughed. And then the video cut. 15 seconds. That's all it was. 15 seconds that now live in my bloodstream like a virus. I don't know who filmed it. I don't even know who posted it first. All I know is that someone from my old job sent it to me on Sunday morning with just 3 words. "Dude," she willed in. I vomited. Like actually got up from the couch and threw up into a half-empty cup of iced coffee. I hadn't even known she was gone. She said the bachelorette thing was Saturday, but left Thursday. Told me her sister needed help setting up. I believed her. Because I'm an idiot. Because I still thought I was the exception. I watched that clip 28 times before I blocked the account that sent it. Then I re-downloaded the app just to search for her name. There were more clips. Different angles. Different moments. Same girl. Same dress. Same lie. You ever feel like your skin doesn't fit anymore? That's what Sunday felt like. Just walking around in clothes I didn't remember putting on, inside a house that suddenly felt rented. I haven't said a word to her yet. She comes back tomorrow. Smiling, probably. Holding that stupid mug from the souvenir shop she always stops at. I don't know if I'll say anything. I don't even know if I can. Because if I open my mouth, I think I'll break. And if I break, she might win. She came back at 6:42 p.m. I was sitting at the kitchen table pretending to read a manual for the rice cooker I've had for 4 years. The garage door opened, her footsteps clacked on the tile, and she called out my name like everything was fine. Like nothing in the world had shifted. Like there wasn't a viral video of her grinding on some guy in front of half a dozen bachelorette party strangers. She walked into the kitchen with 2 bags. One had her dirty clothes. The other had saltwater taffy and a best sister ever sweatshirt. When she leaned in to kiss my forehead, I flinched. Just slightly. Not enough for her to react, but enough for me to feel pathetic. "You okay?" she asked, setting the bags down like she lived here. I nodded. Didn't trust my voice. I was staring at her, trying to find something off. A guilt. A pause. A stumble in her rhythm. But no. She was too smooth. Too normal. She opened the fridge and complained that the oat milk expired. Said something about needing to start her detox tomorrow. She didn't mention the party. Didn't say a word about the video. Didn't seem to know that half the internet had seen it. I should have said something right then. Should have thrown my phone on the table and asked, "What the hell is this?" But I couldn't. Not because I was afraid of her reaction, but because I was afraid of mine. If she admitted it, if she laughed it off or minimized it or said something like, "It was just harmless fun," I don't know what I'd do. Something about not knowing still gave me oxygen. So I played dumb. I helped her unpack. I asked how the weekend went. She gave me a filtered story, charcuterie, card games, a few harmless dares. Ashlyn got wasted and cried about turning 30, she laughed. You know how she is. Then she touched my face and said, "I missed you." And I stood there like a statue while her thumb brushed the edge of my jaw. I think what killed me most was how good she was at lying. Later that night, when she was asleep next to me, breathing steady, tangled in the same sheets we picked out on a boring Target run 2 years ago, I stared at the ceiling and wondered, was I always this easy to fool? Or did she just get better at the game? The next morning, I woke up before her and went out to sit in the car. I didn't even start it. Just sat there in the driveway with the engine off, scrolling. That's when I found the second account. Different username. Different video. Same party. Same man. Same woman I married. Now pulling him by the belt loop behind the cabin. And this time, they didn't stop filming when she thought no one was watching. I watched the second video 5 times in a row before I realized I wasn't breathing properly. You ever hold your breath so long your hands go numb? That's what happened. Fingers tingling, lungs burning, the world going quiet around me like someone had stuffed cotton in my ears. The video was darker than the first. Grainy. The cabin lights were dim, but you could still make out faces, hers especially. Her smile looked different, looser, hungrier. She wasn't surrounded by her sister or friends in this one. No cheering, no laughter. Just that guy, the one with the chain and the sleeve tattoo, leaning against the side of the cabin with a red Solo cup and that smug half-smile that makes you want to punch someone even before they speak. She walked right up to him, said something I couldn't hear. He said something back and laughed. And then she did it. Took his hand, placed it on her hip, pulled him behind the building. The person filming whispered, "Oh my God," under their breath and giggled. Then the video cut. It was only 17 seconds long, but it felt like it broke something in me that's never coming back. I didn't cry. I just sat there in my car, blinking at the dashboard like maybe it could give me answers. Maybe if I stared long enough, the radio would turn on and tell me this was all a joke, that I misunderstood, that Rowan hadn't just dragged a stranger behind a cabin in the middle of the woods while her wedding ring sat at home next to a dried-out bar of soap. I scrolled through the account. Whoever ran it, probably one of Ashlyn's drunk friends, had uploaded other clips from that night. Background shots, dancing, flashing lights. But none of them hit me like those two did. Because those two were personal. They weren't just wild party footage. They were evidence. Evidence that my wife could become someone I didn't know the second I wasn't looking. When I walked back into the house, she was making eggs. Barefoot. Humming. The smell of rosemary filled the kitchen like some twisted mockery of domestic bliss. I watched her for a moment. The way she moved. The way her ponytail bounced as she reached for the salt. This is the same woman who cried when I surprised her with tickets to the Lantern Festival last year. The same woman who sent me photos of every puppy she passed on the street. The same woman who once told me, "You're my calm in the noise." And now she's my storm. "I was thinking we could do tacos tonight," she said, without turning. "Maybe watch something dumb and fall asleep on the couch. Like old times." Like old times. I nodded. My voice still hadn't returned. I felt like a guest in my own house. That night, I went full detective. Waited until she was in the shower. Sat on the edge of the bed with her iPad in my lap. I knew her passcode, her childhood zip code. She'd never changed it. Her texts had been wiped. So had her call history. But the photos. She forgot the deleted folder exists. There were 14 photos. 4 were blurry group shots. 3 were of some cocktails and fish bowls. And the rest? Her. In the same red dress. In the cabin mirror. In the passenger seat of someone's truck. On a couch, with bare legs pressed against someone else's. And in the very last one, she was smiling into the camera, lips parted, cheeks flushed, while a guy's hand cupped her neck. You couldn't see his face, but you could see hers. She didn't look drunk. She didn't look scared. She looked alive. More alive than she's looked around me in years. I didn't confront her that night. I wanted to. I even rehearsed it in my head. Over and over. The words. The tone. The way I dropped the iPad in front of her like a gavel. But every version of the conversation ended the same way, with her denying it, flipping it on me, crying, making me feel like the villain for snooping. And I couldn't take that. Not yet. So I played along. We made tacos. We watched some dumb reality show she loves. She laughed at all the wrong parts. She fell asleep on my shoulder. And I just sat there, paralyzed, wondering how I was supposed to grieve a marriage that hadn't even officially ended. I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling fan as it clicked every time it spun. Tick, tick, tick. Like a countdown. Like something was coming. The next day, I called in sick to work and did what I swore I wouldn't do. I texted Ashlyn. Just 3 words. "Can we talk?" She replied 20 minutes later with, "Is this about the video?" My hands went ice cold. My thumb hovered over the screen for a full minute before I responded. "So you've seen it?" "Yeah. Look, it was just stupid party stuff. Rowan didn't do anything serious." Nothing serious. A man's hand on her neck. A man's lap under her dress. A man's truck with her shoes on the dashboard. Sure. So nothing happened with the guy behind the cabin? I asked. Typing bubble. Gone. Back again. Gone. Then, she told me she just talked to him. That's it. You know she was drinking. Everyone was. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. That was my confirmation. That my wife had already given her version of the story. The rehearsed one. The clean one. But the videos told a different story. And the photos, they didn't lie. That night, I tested her. We were brushing our teeth in silence when I casually asked, "Did you talk to anyone interesting over the weekend?" She blinked. Spit. smiled through the mirror. Just the girls, she said. Ashlyn's friend Savannah brought her cousin. He wouldn't stop talking about crypto. Thought he was hilarious. I nodded. My chest physically hurt. Because now I knew she was choosing the lie. She wasn't frozen in guilt. She wasn't drowning in regret. She had picked her version of the truth and was now living inside it, painting over the real story with careful strokes. And here I was, the idiot, still hoping for some spontaneous confession, some slip-up, some moment where she'd look at me, see the pain on my face, and say, "Okay, I need to tell you everything." But that moment never came. What did come was an email from a burner account. No name, no subject, just an attachment. I hesitated before opening it. My stomach knew before my eyes did. It was a screenshot of a hotel receipt. 2 nights, 1 king bed, paid in cash. Guest name, Savannah Rose. But under additional guest, it said Rowan H. My wife's name, our last initial. Same weekend, same location, same lie. And I hadn't even hit rock bottom yet. I stared at that hotel receipt for over an hour, as if staring hard enough would make it dissolve. It didn't. The file was real. The timestamp was real. The name was hers. And mine was nowhere. It struck me how quiet the house was. Rowan was upstairs, doing yoga in the spare bedroom, like nothing in the world was cracked beneath her feet, like her lies weren't echoing between the walls. I went for a walk, not to think. Thinking was already killing me, but to get away from the smell of her shampoo and the sound of her voice bleeding through the floorboards. I ended up in the grocery store parking lot, sitting in my car, staring at nothing. That's when I remembered something that stopped my breath cold. The tattoo. The guy in the video, the one with his hands on her hips, had a tattoo on his forearm. A black band with little lines etched across it, almost like tally marks. When I saw it the first time, I thought it was just some basic party bro ink. But now that I was really looking, a terrible thought slithered in. I opened Facebook, typed in Savannah Rose. Found the right Savannah instantly, Ashlyn's best friend. The one Rowan swore was harmless. I clicked on her tagged photos. Scrolled. Scanned. My heart pounding. And there he was. His name was Milo. No last name visible. Probably private. But his face wasn't. And neither was his arm. Same tattoo. Not some random hookup. Not a stranger from a bar. This guy was Savannah's cousin. And based on the posts, he'd been at 3 of Ashlyn's parties in the last year. Rowan had met him before. Maybe not alone. Maybe not intimately. But she knew him. Recognized him. Smiled at him across bonfires and birthday cakes. She'd hugged him in group photos. This wasn't just some drunken mistake. It was a choice. I felt something shift in me then. I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't rage. It wasn't heartbreak. It was worse. It was clarity. Like something inside me had finally accepted what I already knew. This wasn't going away. This wasn't a single conversation I could fix. This wasn't a drunken misunderstanding. This was rot. And it had been growing under my roof long before I saw that video. I called my brother. First time I'd spoken the words out loud. Rowan cheated, I said. Silence. Then, you sure? I saw it. And just like that, I wasn't crazy anymore. I wasn't spiraling in my own echo chamber. There was now someone else in this universe who knew. Who could confirm that I wasn't inventing it. That my paranoia had roots. He told me to confront her. Said I couldn't let this sit another night. Said the longer I waited, the more damage I'd do to myself. But he didn't understand. I wasn't waiting because I was scared. I was waiting because I needed more. More proof. More leverage. More truth. So I started digging. Not through her phone. She was too smart for that now. But through the one place she never cleaned up. Her old MacBook in the closet. It still had her iCloud auto login. It took 10 minutes to get in. No password changes. Nothing secure. She must have forgotten it even existed. My hands trembled as the desktop loaded. Dozens of folders. Photos. Notes. Screenshots. And in one buried folder labeled Taxes 2022, I found it. A video file. Blurry. Shaky. Filmed from a table. Rowan. Milo. Her hand on his chest. His lips on her neck. The party noise in the background. Her laugh. That same laugh from our honeymoon when I dropped her ice cream cone and she called me a graceful disaster. Now she was laughing into another man's collarbone. The file was date-stamped. February. 7 months ago. She'd seen him before the bachelorette party. This wasn't a one-time thing. It was a continuation. She'd been lying to me for most of the year. And I still hadn't told her I knew. She was asleep when I found the video. The glow from the screen flickered against her old paintings stacked in the closet. Landscapes she never finished, dreams she quietly gave up on. I watched the file twice. Then I just sat there, laptop humming in my lap. My reflection ghosted in the blackened screen once it ended. And then I whispered something I hadn't said in a long time. I don't know you. Not to her. To the air. To the version of her that still lived in my mind. The version who wore oversized sweaters and fell asleep during documentaries and always sniffed the milk even if it wasn't expired. The version who hated secrets. Who once told me, I'd rather be hurt with the truth than comforted by a lie. Apparently that only applied when I was the one speaking. I didn't sleep that night. Again, I lay beside her as her back rose and fell under the sheets like nothing was wrong. Like she hadn't kissed someone else months ago and then built a house of smiles and dinners and forehead kisses on top of that crack. I looked at her like she was a stranger. A stranger using my toothpaste. A stranger curled up in my bed. The next morning, I got up early and called in sick again. My boss didn't even sound surprised. Take care of yourself, man, he said. I wanted to ask him what he would do. If his wife had cheated. If he'd found videos. Photos. A whole trail of betrayal that stretched back nearly a year. But I didn't ask. I just said thanks and hung up. That afternoon, I drove to the cabin. The same one from the party. I recognized the wood paneling from the videos. The twisted tree outside the back door. I found it through a reverse image search on one of the rental platforms. Booked under Savannah's name. I called pretending to be her assistant and asked if anything was left behind during the last rental. I think a necklace might have fallen under the couch, I said. They told me I could stop by and look, but they'd already cleaned everything. I thanked them and drove anyway. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe some trace of her, a receipt, a smell, a leftover bobby pin. Something tangible, something real. But there was nothing. Just silence and dried pine needles and a fire pit full of gray ash. Still, I stood there for a long time, imagining the night, the laughter, the music, her heels clicking on the porch. The moment she pulled him into the dark. What was she thinking? Did she hesitate? Did she picture my face? Or did she forget me entirely, like a jacket you leave at the restaurant and don't realize is missing until it's cold again? I didn't cry. I don't know why. Maybe I'd passed the point where tears could help. Maybe grief isn't loud. Maybe it's just the stillness that comes when you realize someone burned the bridge you didn't know you were standing on. When I got home, she was on the phone with her sister. I heard her laugh through the door. That same too perfect laugh. Like everything in her world was light and normal and safe. I walked upstairs, went to the bathroom, locked the door, and finally let myself speak. Into the mirror. She's cheating on me. 3 words. I watched my mouth form them. And then I watched my face. I didn't recognize him. That's when I realized something even worse than the betrayal. Something colder. Heavier. This wasn't the first time. I could feel it. In the way she carried herself. The easy lies. The calculated smiles. She didn't just slip. She practiced. This, Milo, was just the first time she got caught. Which meant my marriage had been dead longer than I thought. I tried to pretend for one more day. Just one. I told myself I needed to hold it together, gather more facts, prepare for a confrontation I could control. But the thing about pretending is, it breaks in small, invisible ways. You don't notice it cracking until it's already collapsed. She asked me that morning if I wanted to go with her to the farmer's market. I said no. She asked if everything was okay. I said yes. She kissed my cheek and said, "You've been quiet lately." I said, "Just tired." She nodded and left in her denim jacket, the one I bought her on our 2nd anniversary. I stood in the kitchen watching the door for a full minute after it closed, like maybe she'd come back in, sit down, and finally say, "I need to tell you something." But she didn't. Of course she didn't. Instead, I opened her laptop again. Same folder. Same login. But this time, I checked the Notes app. I didn't even expect to find anything. But then I saw one titled, "If I Ever Tell Him." My hands were shaking before I even opened it. It was dated nearly 4 months ago. The note wasn't long, but it said enough. I didn't plan for it to happen. It was supposed to just be fun, a joke. Savannah said he was safe, and I don't know what that even means now. I didn't expect to like him. But then I did. And then I couldn't stop thinking about him. But I still love Matt. I just don't know what kind of love it is anymore. She never sent it. Never printed it. Just wrote it out and buried it like a time bomb she hoped would never go off. But here I was, standing right on top of it. I read it 3 times. Then I closed the laptop and stood at the sink, trying to decide what the hell that meant. She didn't plan it. She liked him. She still loves me. I don't know which part hurt more, the betrayal itself, or the fact that she was still trying to define the shape of the love she had left for me. Like there was a formula that could justify all this. A label she could slap on it, and still sleep beside me without shame. She came home that afternoon humming to herself, laid a bag of peaches on the counter, said she found my favorite kind. I looked at her and realized I didn't want to hear her speak anymore. Her voice, the same one that once lulled me to sleep in the middle of thunderstorms, now felt like static in my ears. I told her I was going to take a drive. Where? She asked. Nowhere, I said. But I didn't go nowhere. I drove to Milo's work. I found it through an old photo Savannah had tagged, some upscale landscaping place on the edge of town. I parked across the street and waited. I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't have a plan. I just needed to see his face. The man she risked everything for. The man who kissed her in the dark while I sat home writing her a poem I never sent. He came out around 4:30, taller than I expected, smiling, talking to a coworker, wiping dirt from his hands with a towel. He looked normal, infuriatingly normal. Not the villain I wanted him to be. Not some evil caricature. Just a man. I didn't confront him. I didn't move. I just sat there with my fingers clenched around the steering wheel, heart pounding so hard it hurt my ribs. Then I drove home, slowly, windows down, letting the cold air burn my face. That night, Rowan made pasta, poured wine, played one of her mellow playlists like nothing was rotting beneath us. And just as she sat across from me, fork halfway to her lips, she said it. Can I ask you something? I looked up, met her eyes, and for a second, I thought this is it. She knows I know. She's about to confess. But all she asked was, do you think we're happy? I stared at her. Do you think we're happy? I wanted to scream, throw my glass, ask how she had the gall to pretend we were still standing on the same ground. But instead I said, do you? She hesitated, then smiled in that sad way people do when they've already decided what they're going to do. They're just trying to find the least painful way to do it. I think we could be happier, she said. And then she reached for my hand across the table. I didn't pull away. I let her touch me, because part of me still wanted to believe the lie. That night, after she reached for my hand and told me we could be happier, I stared at her fingers wrapped around mine like they belonged there, like they hadn't once curled around someone else's shirt in the dark. I thought about all the nights I lay awake next to her while she dreamed about someone else. All the times I convinced myself love was about patience, that staying silent was stronger than leaving. But in that moment, something changed. Not in her, in me. I realized I didn't need her to confess anymore. I didn't need an apology or a tear-streaked explanation or even justice. I didn't need the full story because I already had it, written in her body language, in her lies, in the silence between her words. I just needed peace. So I let go of her hand. Gently. No drama. No accusation. I looked her in the eye and said, we should talk tomorrow. Really talk. She nodded, like she'd been waiting for me to say that. And I think part of her knew the story was already over. That night, I slept in the guest room. I left the door open. She didn't come in. In the morning, I packed a small bag. Just the basics: laptop, clothes, the old book of poems I wrote for her during our first year of marriage. I didn't take it to remember her. I took it to remind myself of the man I used to be before I made myself small for someone else. I sat her down at the table where we'd shared hundreds of quiet breakfasts and louder fights. I told her I knew everything. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't show her the photos or the videos. I didn't need to. She went pale, eyes wet, lips trembling. I could see the panic swell behind her calm exterior, like a dam cracking under pressure. She said she was sorry. Of course she did. But I didn't want her sorry. I wanted her gone from my head. I told her I'd be staying at my brother's for a while, that I'd be filing the paperwork in the next few days, that I didn't hate her, but I couldn't share air with someone who kept stealing it from me behind my back. She didn't beg. She didn't deny it. She just nodded, quiet, like someone finally caught in their own trap. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt light. Leaving wasn't easy, but staying would have broken something in me I wouldn't be able to put back together. And here's the part one didn't expect. 3 months later, I woke up in a studio apartment with sunlight pouring across the floor. I had no one beside me in bed, no one to make coffee for, no fake smiles, no lies, Just quiet. And it didn't feel empty. It felt clean. I started therapy. I started journaling again. I even joined a local hiking group. Not to meet people, just to remember what breathing felt like without the weight of suspicion crushing my ribs. One day, I opened that old book of poems. I didn't cry. I didn't burn it. I just read the words and smiled at the man who wrote them. He deserved better. And now he's getting it. Some stories don't end with revenge. Some end with reclaiming your voice. I lost my wife. But I found me. And honestly, that trade was worth it.